Tonight, strike looming. Air Canada cancels more flights. Let's talk. Port St. John makes it easier to communicate with City Hall. Some BC conservationists look to end the wolf cull in place to protect caribou. Good evening and thank you for joining us. And start looking for options if you have plans to fly Air Canada over the next few days. That's because talks are at an impasse and some 10,000 flight attendants have voted to go on strike. Canada's biggest airline has begun the gradual suspension of flights, a dozen tonight, another 500 by tomorrow, and by Saturday, a complete grounding of all flights. Here's Sean Leathon.
Storming in on their employer, about 24 Air Canada flight attendants picket inside a news conference that was organized by the airline.
We want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be valued for the work that we do.
Members stand holding signs accusing Air Canada of forcing unpaid work. This as the airline begins canceling flights, winding down operations towards a total shutdown.
It's simply not the kind of system that we can start or stop at the push of a button.
At the start of the day, Air Canada leadership outlined what the shutdown would look like. It includes several dozen cancellations Thursday, around 500 cancellations on Friday, with all flights grounded by Saturday, if a deal is not reached in time. The first cancellations to be mostly international long-haul flights set to take off Thursday night. At Pearson Airport in Toronto, an information desk has been set up to help travelers who are concerned.
I'm concerned about getting back from my destination. That's about it.
I'm hoping it'll be very short-lived and resolved really quickly. If not, I guess we're finding another ride home.
The airline saying all canceled flights will be offered a refund as they try to rebook for those who are stranded, but seats are limited.
And it looks like we're going to have to pay out of pocket probably about $900 for a new flight.
We are extremely disappointed by CUPE's decision, which threatens to disrupt the travel plans of more than 130,000 customers a day.
The airline saying their latest offer, a 38% raise including benefits, that would make Air Canada the best compensated flight attendants in the country.
One of the lowest rates.
Bargaining team member Natasha Steya says the airline isn't being truthful.
We're not the highest paid, and with the increase that they're proposing, we still would not be the highest paid.
As both sides argue over compensation and what the union is calling unpaid work, at this point, there's little either side can agree on.
We have been at the table, sitting and waiting. We've been talking with the conciliators. We've been there. But the employer, they left.
We never left the table. We are engaged throughout the entire process.
Air Canada has asked the federal government to step in and force mediation, with Federal Labour Minister Patty Hajdu saying the government is available, but I urge both parties to put their differences aside, come back to the bargaining table, and get this done now for the many travelers who are counting on you.
And a strike would have major impacts on travelers, whether flights are already booked or you were planning to buy a ticket soon. CTV's Adrian Gobriel has more on your options.
Labor stoppage or not, you should still be able to get off the ground, according to industry watchers.
If you already have an Air Canada ticket booked and paid for, then Air Canada has to buy you a ticket.
In the case of an active strike, which is classified as outside an airline's control, large companies such as Air Canada are required by legislation to rebook customers on a new reservation for the next available flight that is operated by any carrier. On their website, Air Canada says customers whose flights are cancelled will be notified and they will be eligible for a full refund. Air passenger rights advocates are advising customers against accepting a reimbursement.
One important thing to remember is do not accept a refund. Refund can be a way for airlines to wash their hands from their obligations to rebook you.
If you don't have a ticket and are looking to book travel in or out of Canada over the next several days, you might be in for a shock. The cheapest round-trip ticket departing Toronto tomorrow and returning from Vancouver next Friday costs more than $1,300. The same week-long round-trip ticket leaving September 5th, returning September 12th, is going for as little as $273. It all comes down to supply and demand that influences strategic pricing by the airlines.
Last-minute ticket prices, which always tend to be higher, and a substantial sudden increase in demand that is pushing prices up, due to what might be a strike at Air Canada.
Again, if your flight is canceled by Air Canada, they're obligated to purchase you another ticket to your destination. If they refuse, consumer advocates say you can purchase one yourself and flip Air Canada the bill. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Toronto.
The Fort St. John RCMP are asking for the public's help in locating two men wanted on outstanding warrants. The first, Shane Steve Carey, is currently wanted on 8 warrants for theft plus assault, possession of stolen property, and breach of undertaking. Carey's being described as a Caucasian male. He stands 6 feet tall and weighs 174 pounds. The 42-year-old has wavy black hair and brown eyes. He also has black stubble on his face. And Shane Alexander Wilson is currently wanted for a break and enter with intent, robbery, and a breach of a release order. Wilson is being described as a Caucasian man with stubble. He stands at 5 feet 8 inches tall and weighs about 141 pounds. The 38-year-old has blonde receding hairline with hazel eyes. Now, if you have any information on the whereabouts of either one of these men, you're being asked to contact the Fort St. John RCMP. The City of Fort St. John has launched an enhanced online engagement platform called Let's Talk Fort St. John. The platform is designed to make it easier for residents to connect with their local government, share feedback, and stay informed about city initiatives. City officials say the service is mobile-friendly and easy to navigate. It offers a variety of tools to engage with city projects. Mayor Lilia Hansen says the platform will help build a city that reflects the values and priorities of its people. You can follow the link at the bottom of your screen in order to learn more. Well, health officials have confirmed 12 new cases of the measles in the Northern Health Region, bringing this year's total to 134. The BC Centre for Disease Control says 4 of those cases are currently active. The Island Health Region also adding 1 case for a total of 4 this year. The BC CDC says there's now 187 measles cases across the province, and they say most cases come from people who are not vaccinated against the virus. Health officials continue to say that immunization is the best way to fight the highly contagious virus. Well, a BC-based conservation group is launching a global campaign urging the province of British Columbia to end its decade-long wolf cull.
We are raising awareness about wolves in BC in front of the BC legislature and the plight of wolves in BC, but we also have billboards that are across Europe for International Wolf Day.
Pacific Wild invited people to the lawn of the legislature today to pen letters to the Premier and watch a screening of their short film called Brutal British Columbia. The group is pushing for an end to the wolf cull program that the province launched back in 2019 in order to protect caribou herds across the province. The city of Port Alberni on Vancouver Island has declared a local state of emergency. The move is in response to a fast-moving wildfire that's grown substantially.
The fire went from 2,100 hectares up to 3,400 hectares. So we are continuing to see pretty significant growth.
Scorching temperatures in the mid-30s and drought conditions combined to fuel the fire. Rain is in the forecast for tomorrow, but not enough to put out the flames. People living near the fire have been told to be ready to leave on short notice. Evacuation orders were previously issued for a nearby campground and marina. 2 small villages have now been without power for days. Fire crews are focusing on the northern edge of the fire that's closest to homes. Premier Danielle Smith and her Alberta Next panel will hold their 3rd town hall this evening, this time in Edmonton, and they'll focus on a wide range of topics. But if tonight goes anything like last month's town hall in Sherwood Park, we can expect to hear a lot about separatism.
So let's just move forward with a referendum on independence, force that constitution open, and see where those talks take us.
Why is this question even a question when we already have done this survey?
Smith has said one of the reasons for creating the panel is to address concerns regarding separatism. The town hall agenda focuses on a total of 6 different policy ideas. Those include pulling out of Canada pension plan and creating a provincial police force to replace the RCMP. And a judge in Alberta has denied an application to stop the review of a proposed referendum question on provincial separation. The Alberta Prosperity Project supports the idea of the province leaving Canada. They're seeking to ask in a referendum whether the province should become a sovereign country and cease to be a part of Canada. Now, the province's chief electoral officer referred that question to the courts last month for their opinion on if it violates the Constitution. But the APP then tried to apply to quash that review. But today, a judge ruled, nope, a hearing will benefit democracy.
Of the fact that the process actually works. We have always followed this process, and that is why Elections Alberta has approved our petition, and separatists are having these hurdles that they have to overcome.
A group led by Alberta's former Deputy Premier has had its pro-Confederation question approved by Elections Alberta. The Forever Canadian Initiative must collect nearly 300,000 signatures by the end of October for its question to also be considered in a referendum. The Assembly of First Nations calls it an important milestone. Compensation payments have begun for some claimants in a $23 billion child welfare case. The settlement with the federal government affects more than 300,000 First Nations children and their families. It's meant to provide compensation for Canada's chronic underfunding of on-reserve child welfare services. More than 40,000 claims have already been received, but there are still many more eligible claimants who haven't submitted applications. China's nearly 76% tariff on Canadian canola exports went into effect today, and the duty has already caused the price of one of Canada's most valuable crops to fall, wiping out millions of dollars in value. Well, today, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is calling on Ottawa to act.
They've already gone after oil and meal, and this is, of course, another unfair attack on our Western producers, many of whom were having a fantastic growing season and looking forward to a bumper crop. That crop is now facing tariffs from one of our biggest customers.
Well, the move by Beijing comes 1 year after China launched an anti-dumping investigation into Canadian canola. It was in response to Canada's 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles. We supply China with most of its canola, but Beijing currently exports very few electric vehicles to Canada. And the Federal Conservative Party is starting a new pressure campaign to try and stop the Liberal government's electric vehicle mandate.
Rural communities in much of Canada would simply cease to exist over the next 10 years without the ability to use gas and diesel-powered vehicles.
Pierre Poilievre took a break from his by-election campaign to outline the new initiative. It'll include petitions, motions in Parliament, and events at car dealerships. The current electric vehicle mandate requires that 20% of new vehicles sold in Canada by next year to be zero emission. The plan is to phase out gas vehicles entirely by the year 2035. And a think tank that focuses on energy environmental issues says there are fewer oil and gas jobs in Canada despite significant growth in production. The Pembina Institute did a study that concludes a focus on cost-cutting and rewarding shareholders over the last decade has led to a steep decline in the number of jobs per barrel. It says direct oil and gas jobs fell by 35,000 between 2013 and 2023, or about 43%. But at the same time, production increased by 47%. The study says the global oil price crash in 2014 fundamentally altered companies' investment decisions. Well, Canada Post and the union representing close to 55,000 postal workers will begin 2 days of talks tomorrow. The union says both sides met Tuesday with federal mediators. They will meet tomorrow with Canada Post and on Monday as well. The talks come after workers rejected Canada Post's latest proposal, which would have seen wage hikes of about 13% over 4 years, as well as restructuring to add part-time workers. An overtime ban still remains in effect. Negotiations for a new agreement have been ongoing for more than a year and a half. Well, the country's top naval officer wants a decision by the end of this year on who will supply Canada's next generation of submarines to replace the current aging fleet. CTV's Judy Trin looks at the contenders.
Only one of Canada's submarines is surveilling the deep seas. The other 3 subs are grounded under maintenance, making it difficult to meet military obligations.
It means that we've got 3 oceans to defend and we have 1 that we can cover. And because we've struggled to get these submarines operational.
All of Canada's submarines were built in the 1980s and will be too old in a decade. The Navy says it requires 12 new conventional diesel-electric powered submarines in order to effectively patrol the oceans and train its officers. companies from France, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, and a joint venture from Germany and Norway say they can meet those requirements.
Submarine will be diving in 1 minute.
The government plans to decide on a supplier by 2028, but the Navy's top commander wants the timeline moved up by 2 years.
I'd like a shortlist even sooner than that, and I'd like a decision by the end of the year. I think we can get, it's going to be a lot of work.
The most ambitious pitch came from a South Korean company, Hanwha, which already has vessels in production, says it can deliver the first submarine to Canada by 2032 and one per year after that.
We produce ships and submarines at 40 plus ships and submarines a year. We believe that as we're already producing these are the same submarines that are in use operating right now with the Korean Navy.
But the federal government is looking for more than just speed. The deal will be leveraged to boost the economy.
The lowering of trade barriers, access to markets, commitments to invest in Canada. It could be based on, the final decision could be based on a whole lot of non-military factors.
Each submarine will cost about $2 billion to build. The U.S. is not a factor in this decision because it doesn't make conventional submarines, only nuclear ones. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
All right, stay tuned. Noah will be right back after the break with weather.